Preparations are underway for the possible interment of the only Kenyan chief of the Defence Forces to die in office. The family says it was his wish to be buried in under 72 hours and they intend to fulfill that wish. The ceremony will, however, be a state funeral, preceded by none other than the Commander-in-Chief of the Defence Forces. The Defence Cabinet Secretary, Aden Duale, has said he will be accorded the mandatory 19-gun salute. The church service and the military parade will be mounted at Ulinzi Sports Complex on Saturday. So, what do we know as of now, Ken?
Well, Aseto, we know quite a lot because this is ceremony that must be undertaken by the state. A lot of information is coming up. There's so much attention in what is going on around the country. And I'd just like to tell you what we know as of now. But I'd like to begin where you stopped, because Joel Okech, General Ogolla's father, was expecting that tomorrow, Saturday, he will be celebrating his 100th birthday. Now, today he mourns, and of course, the whole country mourns, and the military mourns, and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces. So as he mourns, the last salute by his son, the whole country joins him in mourning this. Instead of celebrating his 100th birthday, he's actually staring at another ceremony on Sunday, but that will be the burial of his son. So these are the other these are the other military officers who also perished in that accident, and we'll be telling you more about them in the course of this bulletin, because their burials are also being organized simultaneously with that of General Ogolla. But what do we know as at this hour? Brigadier Swale Saidi was laid to rest in Kikambala, Kilifi County earlier on this afternoon. Actually, it's about 6 p.m. this evening when he was laid to rest in Kiamba. General Francis Omondi Ogolla is set to be laid to rest on Sunday, the 21st April of the year 2024. A historic day indeed. And of course, the government is yet to confirm, but they have mounted an elaborate ceremony, send-off ceremony tomorrow at Ulinzi grounds, and we shall be there as KTN News. Also, Azimio One Kenya wants investigations done and the findings made public. That press conference was held today. So let's talk a little bit about this aircraft that took the life of 10 and injured 2 others. Now, it was designated as a state aircraft, and I'd like to tell you what a state aircraft is. Now, this aircraft is classified as a state aircraft, meaning it's an aircraft used in the military, customs and police services of Kenya or any other state or any other civil registered aircraft at the time performing a state function and fully converted to offer services to heads of states, military service, customs, police services, or any other state. That's why it's classified as a state aircraft. All right, so during the investigations, because we definitely expect investigations to have begun or about to begin. Remember, that area has been cordoned off. It's a protected area because investigations need to begin, and they need to piece that aircraft together in order to know exactly what happened. So the objective of that investigations, now that it's cost lives, they just need to know how to prevent any further accidents any further accident that could come as a result of usage of that aircraft, and of course any incidences that could come as a result of use of that aircraft by the military or even individuals. That is the object of investigations. Now let's talk about the investigations in relation to this specific aircraft. Yesterday we told you that this is a Bell UH-1 Iroquois, and it's operated by the Kenya Defence Forces. The type of the flight at that time was a military utility helicopter or chopper. The manufacturer of this, the owners of this chopper, is Americans. It's made in America. The production years, as we said yesterday, 1956 to 1987, the last one was made then. We'll be sharing more information about that. The number of the passengers that were on board yesterday were 12. The nature of that damage, once it happens, it's classified. Can it go back to operation or not? So it was completely destroyed. The location of that occurrence was the Sindar area, Kaben location, Elgeyo Marakwet County. Still on the aircraft accident investigations, the date of the occurrence must also be taken into account, the 18th of April 2024. The injuries as recorded also is classified under accident investigations as 2, and the fatalities were 10. And the class of occurrence has also to be designated, and in this aircraft, it's said to be an accident. All right, away from that, The first flight of this aircraft, this additional information, was 1956. Commissioned, went into operations in 1959 when countries could buy them, and the US was one of the biggest consumers. So introduction in 1959 when it was rolled out, and the number of this particular aircraft built are said to be 16,000, operating across several nations. And now let's talk about the investigations and talk about specifically the people who will be involved in unearthing what exactly happened to this aircraft. Now, the first one is the Aircraft Accident Investigation Department. As you know, this department is under the Ministry of Roads and Infrastructure, so they are the ones who will lead this investigation because it happened in the country. Apart from that, we have the FAA, Federal Aviation Authority, the National Transportation and Safety Board, USA, definitely because they are the manufacturer of this aircraft. They must be involved in these investigations. Aside from them, there's a department called the Department of Defense, the Office of the Inspector General, also very instrumental in unearthing exactly what happened. But you must remember in this that the Department of Defense is also under the FAA, or the National Transportation and Safety Authority. They lead the investigations and the reporting. But this is done with the participation of appropriate military authorities. Also, I'd like to tell you that where the NTSB is involved, they are also authorized to investigate both civil and military accidents. So that's why they appear on our list tonight. Aside from that, there is the ISO group. Now, you want to know a little bit about the ISO group because they are the suppliers of the spare parts for this type of aircraft. They must be involved in the investigation. If there was a problem with any part of that aircraft, the ISO group will be instrumental in testing and knowing the problem is. Now, they are the supply chain partner for the defense and aerospace industry. And of course, there's military accident investigation and reporting who will also be involved. And all these parties, as I have mentioned, from the Accident Investigations Department by the by the Ministry of Transport to FAA, represented by the NTSB, Department of Defense, and ISO Group, Military Aircraft Accident Investigations. This team will have to pick a lead or a chief investigator, and I bet it has to come from Kenya because the incident is reported in Kenya. And as we end, we'd just like to end with that picture of General Francis Ogolla, who was, until his death yesterday, the chief of the Defense Forces. Back to you, Seto.
Thank you very much, Ken. And as rightfully put, we are following up on development on this story.